A wrestler. His brother Owen Hart recently died in a horrible accident during a WWE event. One of these flying stunts. But Bret continues to wrestle. I would think that Bret might think twice about it. But
they come from a whole wrestling family. Their father was a wrestler.
Father was a wrestler. And how you doing? This is Bret Hart, everybody. Hey, Bret. How you doing? Bret. Hey, man. Sorry to hear about your brother, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thinking of him.
Were you close with your brother?
Extremely.
I would imagine, because you're both in the same profession, you probably could relate to one another pretty much. But do you? I know the family is suing the WWE, but you're not part of the suit.
No, just the in a case like that, only
the wife
and the mother and the father are actually the ones that can do any kind of suing.
But you support the suit?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because you feel that they could have made the conditions safer, or is that just something that's sort of one of those fluke things? Do you think that it was really their fault, or do you think it was one of those fluke things where, I don't know, just everything goes wrong that night? Who the hell knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I think what it comes down to is, it's one of those. It's like an accident,
right? Hard to place blame.
Still somebody's fault,
right? Yeah.
Sooner or later it narrows down to whose fault was it, and that's where you.
And evidently, your brother was a great guy. From everyone, any of the wrestlers I've had on this show, they just talk about him in a glowing way. They feel that he was just a down-to-earth guy, not carried away with the business, not carried away with his fame and success, and was a down-to-earth, nice guy to hang with on the wrestling circuit.
Yeah, he was. I can't think of a better guy. He was such a great guy on the road. He was, and he was a great family guy.
Right.
And he had an unbelievable sense of humor. He was so funny to be around all the time. So he was never one of those kind of guys that you didn't look forward to having him around. You always liked being around. He was the best practical joker I ever met. I mean, he was just such a funny guy all the time, and he had a very subtle, kind of approach to, pulling pranks and stuff where no one ever knew he set it up, kind of thing, and then you just see, you'd be pulling out of a gas station and two guys would be fighting, kind of thing.
Right. He's a fun guy to hang with.
He was a master, yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird too, because I know a couple of the wrestlers, and they just said that a lot of the guys on the circuit can be real scumbags, like in any business. The people are jerks, but he was just one of those guys people like to hang with. He was fun off air, wasn't stuck up, wasn't a jack off. So it's particularly sad when it's a good guy like that. And you and your brother were close growing up. And your father was an intense, not only wrestling fan, but was he a wrestler himself?
Yeah, he was a wrestler, and then he basically became a promoter, which means he sort of used to run the wrestling out in Western Canada.
Did you not like him? Was he one of those dads that pressured you into wrestling and forced you? Did he? Because it sounds like you had a violent family. That you had to fight your sisters and stuff. Yeah,
it was a kind of a dog-eat-dog world kind of household, But
did your dad set it up that way?
There's still a wrestling area, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a little room they call the dungeon, which still works. But
I don't understand growing up. Like, your dad's into wrestling, so therefore all of his kids have to fight each other.
Well, no, it wasn't like that. It was like when you have 12 kids, though, that's a lot of kids. It's like a little hotel. It's like a hotel. Or
at least it's something to keep them busy, an activity. If they are fighting all the time, then perhaps they can wear them out and they'll go to bed.
It's winter time most of the time, so we're kind of all stuck in the house. And
was he a wealthy man to have 12 children?
No, I mean, I think there was an illusion there where people thought we were wealthy. Like, we had a big limousine that used to drive us to school.
Oh, really?
But when you really think about it, he only bought a limousine, which is an old, beat-up old limousine.
Which are a lot cheaper than...
What are you going to put 12 kids in?
That's true.
They had a lot of vans and stuff like that I remember in those days. But I think we grew up, there was 5 boys to start with. There was a lot of squabbling and fighting, and usually ended up wrestling, which is relatively safe. And then there was girls. And then for me... When I grew up as a kid, I grew up surrounded by the girls in the family, which wasn't a very...
And the girls are tough? I mean, you are a huge guy. I mean, you're big. You're very muscular. I would think a fight with you, the girls would get pretty, bruised up.
Well, they could hold their own.
You do not get along with your sisters now, do you?
I get along with a couple of them.
Right. Some of them you hate. Well, maybe it was set up that way.
In a group of 12 people, there's always going to be somebody out on the outs.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
One fire out, and then you're moving to another.
Yeah.
Right. So you get along with some of your siblings.
Yeah, and it moves around all the time.
But your father was a violent man? I mean, angry man?
No, but very very well. He could have a short fuse.
Yeah, because I read something where somebody said that your dad would there was some delivery guy or something he didn't like, and he put him in a wrestling hold for hours, like a choke hold or something.
He likes to put people to sleep, I think.
Yeah, didn't he put him to...
There's a funny story, but my dad's actually a really compassionate guy.
Right.
You had to catch him on the right day, but there was a time when I was a kid when it was about 2 or 3 in the morning. I guess somebody tried to steal. My dad lived out further out in the city than he lived a few miles out of town.
Yeah.
And I guess someone tried to steal his car. He had left the keys in it in the wintertime. I guess the guy got stuck in the driveway. And my dad went out thought it was one of my brothers, and he went out to help this poor soul, and he instead dragged him into the house. I just remember pots and pans smashing all over the place.
Right.
And my dad tortured him for hours and hours and hours in the kitchen of the house. But
can you imagine you're trying to steal a car?
And the
guy's like a professional wrestler. Right. He catches you. Rather than calling the police, he just takes you into the kitchen.
Yeah, the guy has a place called the Dungeon.
Yeah, wrestles you, and then puts you in a sleeper hold for hours. I mean, you'd rather go to the police, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was. I was scared to death. I thought it was one of my brothers, and then I found out after that it wasn't.